Okay, the last adventure was to Korea. Does anyone remember the national sport of Korea?
Baseball.
Baseball, right. What, not you Lithuanians, what's the national sport of Lithuania?
Basketball.
Okay, basketball is correct. And what's our favorite cavalier of Lithuanian descent? Or who? Say it all. Zydrunas Ilgauskas, of course, Z. So basketball is huge in Lithuania and has been. Quick story about the Olympics and Lithuanian basketball. If you'll remember, so this is the Soviet Union. Basketball is America's game. They won the Olympics every year. It was easy. We just used our college players, no pros, and the other countries would use their pros, but the U.S. always won. So in 1988, in Seoul, Korea, the Olympics, we had a team with people like Danny Manning, Bimbo Coles, Mitch Richmond, not exactly Will Chamberlain type people here. The Soviet Union had a great team. 4 of the 5 best players were Lithuanian. So it's really a Lithuanian team. Sabonis, he played with Portland, 7'4" guy, but he could pass like Magic or Larry Bird. And Mironis from Golden State Warriors, so they had NBA caliber players. Now so did some of the other, like Yugoslavia was still there. So they had Tony Kukoc and Vlade Divac and people like that. So these are NBA caliber players playing. U.S. had these weak college kids. So in '88 in Seoul, Russia, with some manipulation of the time clock at the end of the game, beat the U.S. and got the gold. They then went on to beat Yugoslavia in the finals. First time the U.S. didn't get the gold medal in basketball. It was terrible because the refs messed up and they underestimated the talent from Europe. And like I say, it was 4 of the 5 best players were Lithuanian, not Soviet. So the U.S. talked to the Olympic people, they said enough is enough. So they said, we're taking away that rule where we only have to have amateurs. So for '92 in Barcelona, they come up with the dream team. Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Karl Malone, Charles Barkley. No one's going to beat this team. Meanwhile, Soviet Union collapses. So Lithuania is on their own now. Lithuania still wants to play because they've got good players and they love basketball. That's their game. They don't have money though. They're a young country. Funds are scarce. So Marcelonis is playing for Golden State Warriors, whose coach is Don Nelson. His kid, Donnie Nelson, knows a guy at the San Francisco Chronicle. He says, write a story about these guys, the Lithuanian team. They just want to play and compete. So he writes the story, puts it in the San Francisco Chronicle, says, here's a up-and-coming young team. They need the money. They're good guys. They're fighting the Soviets, all this stuff. Who reads it but members of the Grateful Dead, the psychedelic band? So the Grateful Dead sends $5,000 to the Lithuanian team, but more importantly, they have their designer create logo and T-shirts. Now the Lithuanian flag you'll see is yellow, green, and red. They made tie-dye yellow, green, and red shirts, uniforms, pants, all that stuff with their skeleton logo called Scully, dunking a basketball. It took off. They became a cult classics. The Lithuanian players loved it because they had this drab gray and blue when they were with the Soviets. Suddenly you have the coolest uniforms out there. So they are able to get into the Olympics. They do good in Europe, go qualify for the Olympics. They're in the bracket with Russia, the new UCI or whatever they called it then. So they're not playing for the finals. In the semifinals, though, they played Russia. They beat Russia. So Lithuania went crazy. The players went crazy. And the story is in the locker room, they're all jumping around with the champagne and they're dancing in their tie-dyed shirts. All of a sudden, someone, shh. The president of Lithuania came into the locker room. They all started singing the national anthem of Lithuania. Not a dry eye in the house. And then they started up with champagne again. So they doused the president of Lithuania with champagne. He's got to go back out. He's got nothing to wear. They give him one of those T-shirts. He walks out in a Grateful Dead tie-dye T-shirt with Scully dunking the ball. People went nuts. It just, the cult status grew from that. Scully is the only cartoon character in any sports Hall of Fame. he was put into the NBA National Basketball Association Hall of Fame. So what happened then? They beat the Russians, but no one was going to beat the U.S. that year. Not with the Dream Team. So they lost to the U.S. by 51, and then the U.S. beat Croatia, I think, in the finals. Got the gold. Everything was righted. But the Lithuanians didn't care. Their bronze medal there, being Lithuania, was much more satisfying than the gold medal they won as the Soviet Union in 1988. So it's just a really cool story. They call up, Ruda said, the other Dream Team, because no one could compete with Michael and those guys, but they were a Dream Team in their own way. They still have those T-shirts and logos and all. Find them in eBay or whatever. First they paid for the basketball stuff, then they went to Lithuanian Children's Aid. So, pretty cool story.